It is a vestry meeting at an Episcopal church some years ago. At the very end of the meeting, and Mr. Jones raises his hand and says, I have one more agenda item. You know how when someone's going to drop a bomb, they always wait until the very last of the meeting. And he says, I think you all noticed that our church services are getting longer and longer. I timed our service last Sunday with a stopwatch. This is before smartphones. He said, and it lasted 1 hour and 15 minutes. That's too long. He says, now, I timed every part of the service, and I made a chart showing how long each part took, and I'm going to hand that out to you now. And he passes out a piece of paper to everyone to show how much each part of the service took. He says, now I've shown here how we can reduce the length of the service by cutting out parts that are unnecessary. For instance, the prayers of the people went too long. We need to cut the names. Savings, 3 minutes. Now the peace took 5 minutes. If we all stay in our pews, we can cut that down to 1 minute. Announcements took 8 minutes. Cut that to 3. Choir anthem took 7 minutes. If you count all the time it took them to get started, cut that to 3 or eliminate the anthem altogether. It's unnecessary. Now that's a total of 16 minutes. Plus, we can eliminate all those silences and pauses in the service. They're just dead air. The priest and the organist ought to be told to cut down on those pauses and move the service along. So I make a motion that we make the changes suggested in this document. Well, silence. No one really quite knows what to say. Mr. Jones is a very authoritative speaker. And finally, Eileen Smith speaks up. Mrs. Smith has been at the church longer than Mr. Jones. In fact, Mrs. Smith is a lifelong Episcopalian. And she says, now, Mr. Jones, when I come to church, I am not thinking about the clock. I'm here to worship God. And I get here about 15 minutes before the service so I can slow myself down, so I can quiet my mind, calm my heart. And I stay after the service too, to let it soak in. So when I come to the church, I'm not on a timer. What I appreciate about our worship is that the prayer book gives us a service that is dignified and measured. I don't want to rush through it. I need time to process what's going on. I need to hear my friends' names named in the prayers of the people. I need to greet people during the peace. I need the silences. What does the psalm say? How dear to me is your dwelling place, O Lord of hosts. My soul has a desire and longing for the house of the Lord. So, Mr. Smith and Mr. Jones, I'm going to vote against your motion. Well, there's a little more debate, but in the end, they decide to not pass Mr. Jones' motion, but they pass a motion to encourage the priest and the organist to remember the length of the service. Well, after the vote, Mr. Jones folds his arms and says, well, I think I made my point. Now I'd like you to think of another vestry meeting. Well, not exactly a vestry meeting, but a church gathering. A gathering of Jesus and the disciples. They have come together for a dinner at the home of Martha and Mary and Lazarus. Now, Martha and Mary's house is a safe place for Jesus. He knows that when he comes to their house, they're going to protect him and comfort him. He doesn't have to speak to anyone. He can just be there in the comfort of their presence. And this is especially important this night because it's 1 week before the Passover. And Jesus knows that before the Passover is done, he will have suffered an excruciating death on the cross. But this night at least, he can rest in the comfort of his friends. Now keep in mind that a home in Jesus' time was very modest in size. Probably just one room, not much bigger than the living rooms in some modern homes. And people are used to being together, being close together, squeezed together so that you're side by side, shoulder by shoulder with the other people in the room. And there's really no privacy. You can hear everything that's going on in the room. And suddenly, the air is filled with the fragrance of perfume. You can't help but notice it. Everyone looks up to see Mary pouring an expensive ointment on Jesus' feet and wiping his feet with her hair. Her head is bent down to the floor so she can use her hair as a towel. It's so tender and gentle and intimate. I mean, it's almost embarrassing. Mary is performing an act of worship right there in front of them. And they're all enveloped in the smell of the perfume. And then someone has to speak up. And wouldn't you know, it's Judas Iscariot, the treasurer. And he says, my fellow disciples, I want you to know that, want you to notice the extravagance of our sister Mary here. I don't know where she got that perfume, but I can tell you it's made of pure nard. Something like that would cost over 300 denarii. That's more than a year's wages for most of us. Whole year. And as the treasurer of our group, I just want to say that that's too much extravagance for our group. We just can't afford this. We're barely making it already, and now we're wasting this kind of money on a few smell-good moments. That perfume could have been sold and money given to the poor. Well, no one really knows what to say. This is awkward. There's some truth in what he says, but no one wants to say anything against dear Mary. Finally, Jesus looks up at them with sad eyes and he says, leave her alone. She bought this perfume so she could save it for the day of my burial. You'll always have the poor with you, but you don't always have me. And what he's saying is these aren't ordinary times. Mary understands what I'm going through, and she's preparing me for my death, which is not far off. She knows intuitively what to do, and she's doing the right thing. So leave her alone. So everyone goes back to their conversations, but Judas folds his arm and he says, well, I think I made my point. But what Mary is doing in this crowded room is worshiping Jesus. And the reason we have this story in the Gospels is to show us something about worship. Worship is devotion. It's reverence. It's adoration. Worship is not a list of things to say and do before we can get on with the rest of Sunday. Worship is paying attention to God. In the wisdom of Mother Church, we've been given a liturgy that helps us draw near to God. It's ancient, it's venerable, it's full of mystery and awe and wonder. And the rhythm of our worship with the prayers and the readings and the creed and the communion all help us enter into the presence of God. That's what worship is. As the psalm says, one day in your courts, O Lord, is better than 1,000 in my own room.